All right, and thank you for tuning into another episode of Becoming Disciples. I am your host, Justin Mathis, and this is my co-host,
Stephen Fontes.
And we have a special guest with us today, Tom. How you doing?
Pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Today we're going to be discussing generational wealth. But before we begin, I'd like to read a verse that I really gravitate towards. It's Proverbs 13, verse 22. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. And that verse really speaks to me. When I think about generational wealth, I think about the life I want to impart on my children and the desire to leave them with the blueprint to living a prosperous and very fulfilling life. I mean, not only monetarily, but also morally. The knowledge and the wisdom that, if instilled the right way, can, certainly, leave a lasting impression and transcend generations. That's at the forefront of, that concept are those beliefs, for me at least. So yes, ladies and gents, this is Mr. Tom Nolan. He's a good friend of mine, also my financial advisor. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate it.
You have a strong interest in the market. Very, very intelligent, bright individual. So I want to thank you for, taking this time out to complete this with us. I'd like the audience to kind of get to know who you are as a person, as a man. So with that, so let's just go through a little chronological order.
Yeah, I'll start from the top. I'm from the Northeast. I was born in Massachusetts, but I moved to Connecticut when I was young. My parents got separated about two years old, right?
Yes.
So mostly Connecticut most of my life, but my roots are, mostly Massachusetts, all parts of New England. But, growing up, I have to tell you, I lived in a very small Connecticut town, very waspy. And so, I don't know, I look back and I think it was kind of very vanilla. And so it was only till later that I went to the University of Connecticut that I got a taste of real life. And unlike yourself, growing up in a big city, we have diversity. I didn't have any of that. So it was a breath of fresh air to go to a place where I saw not only people from all over our country, but people from all over the world.
Right.
And so that was a great experience. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. Went to high school locally there, obviously in a small town. I was very fortunate. I didn't realize this until I got older, but that public high school that I went to, I got a really good education because not only did all the teachers have a master's degree, they were required to.
That's awesome.
But many of them, because Connecticut was supportive of them getting, advanced degrees, went back and got PhDs.
Wow.
So I was taught at high school from multiple PhDs. So that's kind of like a college, education at high school, right?
Absolutely.
So, kind of cool, and I'm certainly grateful for that. And there was no plan for me to go to school. Parents were like, good luck with that. They were supportive, but the money wasn't there. So I had to play for a scholarship, and I was fortunate. I did get it and was able to go. I wouldn't have otherwise. And, getting there was a big hurdle. And then once I was there, it was like, bam, and it was like a different world. But probably one of the better experiences of my life because the people that I met, the experiences that I had were, like I said, much different from my kind of sheltered or very one-dimensional upbringing.
And it's crazy you say that because you're so well versed. The conversations that we have, you're so cultured, right? And you know a lot about a lot. And and you're someone who can you can kind of fit in anywhere, right? You can rub elbows with anyone. So to say that, it's kind of interesting to hear you having come from where you came from, and then obviously, getting to know pretty much what is out there and just really, really, growing yourself.
Tell us about some of those college days.
Oh yeah, man, that was great.
What was
times.
the college?
University of Connecticut.
University of Connecticut.
Yeah.
Did you ever? Did you guys? The university they're known for a football team, right?
College basketball.
Oh no, it's.
Yeah, the UConn Huskies.
Why did I just? I know. I swear. Listen, I had basketball on my head, but I'm getting Madden tonight, so
Right.
I had football. Of course, So how was it? You ever went to any of the games or anything like that?
I did. In fact, I don't know how this happened, but I ended up in the athletic dorms. Now, I did, play some sports in high school, but I was not talented by any stretch of imagination. It was more social for me, and I enjoyed it. But I ended up somehow in these athletic dorms with Tate George, Scotty Burrell.
Scott Burrell.
And these guys are phenomenal, and I was just like so lucky to be there, right? But we would go out every once in a while, and it was interesting because it was a time when we'd go out at night and we'd be like out in line at a bar, and because I was fortunate enough to be with those guys, we would go straight to the front of the line, because they were celebrities kind of, on campus. The people that were geeks like me that got their academic scholarship ended up in the athletic dorms and got to hang out with some of these really cool athletes. And let me tell you, they were all very down to earth, and that impressed me because, they were kind of like celebrities. But that was a really cool experience for me because, that wasn't my thing, right? So I always downplayed sports. I thought they're overpaid, quite frankly. I felt like the scientists, the people that made a big difference in the world, never got the recognition that they really deserve because, let's be honest, it's more entertaining when you see a great athlete than it is when you have somebody that produces a paper that changes the world in some way,
Sure.
So, but it was all part of the process, and the biggest part, I think, what I alluded to earlier, was the diversity of people that I was able to come in contact with when I was going to parties off campus. I had work study, so I worked in the library, the people I came in contact there, and just opened my world up to just expanding my worldview from, the small town in Connecticut that was so very, white, waspy, and then it was boom, it was great. It was color, it was diversity, it was, people that just came from every socioeconomic walk of life, and that shapes you, And in addition to my studies, which I was a double major, double minor, and working like 30 hours a week, so it was very intense. I don't know how I did it. I couldn't do it again. 4 years I was done, and worked a lot and had a lot of schooling. So
it's safe to say that probably was one of the more rewarding parts of your life, just that whole college experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I wasn't supposed to be there. None of my siblings went to school. They ended up with the GED, didn't even graduate from high school. So I was kind of like the only one that, kind of broke out. And I was
in the family that took off.
Kind of grateful for that.
What did you go to school for?
I was a double major, U.S. history, political science, double minor in philosophy and literature. So it was basically just, well-rounded from my perspective, because it was something that I had a passion for. Bachelor of Arts, it really wasn't going to equate to necessarily a career, but I was fortunate the money was there, and why major in something that's going to make you miserable. I could have been a business major, I guess.
It's funny, Tom. I remember like it was yesterday, right? I believe me and Mike were kind of having a little back and forth. And I remember you kind of just stepping in, right? And you were the advocate. And I just remember you just really, stepping forth. And, what I saw in that moment, and I told you, was like passion. I saw a lot of passion. And I said, man, Tom, you could have been a lawyer. You look the part, definitely have the verbiage, but also just the desire to speak up for the voice unheard. So I saw the passion, and I'm like, man, Tom, you've always been someone who is the first to speak against injustice and inequality and whatever you saw wasn't fair. And I saw that from you right away. So where did you get this passion from, this desire to speak up for the people who don't have voices or choose not to use their voice?
Yeah, I think part of it came from my dad. My dad was a warrior in the military and came back broken, right? And so the relationship was, touch and go. It wasn't always the best, but the parts that I tried to remember, because the rest of it's pretty horrific, was that he was a kind of guy that was like that. He was about the little guy. And when he was in the trenches, it didn't matter if the guy next to him was black, white, or Scottish plaid. If he had his back, that's someone that he had, all the world of respect and appreciation for. And he kind of gave that to us to say, you know, you don't ever see the world in a way where you have the privilege to judge. You know, you need to understand that we're in this together. And even though you might not know somebody well, you better learn to appreciate him, because that might be the guy that, you know, either takes a shot for you or takes somebody else out that's, you know, got their sights on your head. And so it's a big deal.
And so, Tom, hence the theme, generational wealth. And that's something that he instilled in you, and he taught you a way of being that you were able to carry on all throughout life. So, you know, that was very important. I'm glad you spoke on that. Just having, you know, gotten that from your dad, very, very crucial for a young man. So definitely thank you for sharing that.
I do want to ask you a question, though. So one of the things I was going to ask, since we're talking about the generational wealth, I heard you're into the marketing. Do you ever trade like cryptos and stuff like that? Like with stock markets and stuff?
I think the crypto, the Bitcoin that's already been established,
Right.
not so much the other altcoins, is definitely a market that can be traded. Unfortunately, I do futures. And if you're going to do the futures market in Bitcoin, you better have like $500,000 at hand, because
Right.
the margin that's required to trade that is huge because of the volatility. The more the volatility, the price swings, then you have to have more margin to back up what your trade is, right? Because if
Right.
it goes against you, they want to know that you can, you know, come up with the money. So I do focus on the euro and the E-mini, the S&P 500 index, but I trade that less now. I was doing that more when I had Tuesdays off, had a different schedule.
Right.
I could sit in the morning and watch the market go up and down and take some trades. Now, because I'm Monday through Friday, I basically trade my Roth, which is, you know, not too long ago they changed the rules of how you can trade your Roth. You can actually do option strategies, which you couldn't do before, and now you can. So that's huge. So that's kind of what I do, more swing trading, you know, 2 weeks up to like a year and a half in terms of time frame, whereas intraday is minutes, right?
Right.
Up and down, and you're in and out. But yeah, Bitcoin is fascinating. It's here to stay.
Have you heard anything about, because I know that a lot of people were upset with like how the cryptocurrency moves, and they're trying to like do everything they can to tax it or try to get rid of it. Well, one of the things, the reason I brought it up is because, so I'm guessing you do like a little day trading here and there.
With the euro, I can do it at 3:30 in the morning at the London Open,
Right.
so I can still work my day job. You know, it's rough on me when I get to work, and I only do it when I look for very specific things. So I don't do it a lot, but when it's important for me to look at it to see if I'm watching the price charts, if it's behaving the way I want it to, high probability opportunity, I'm going to jump in. But
Do you do contracts, or do you just like, so you do contracts?
That's
Yeah.
right. With futures, it's contracts. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because one of the things I was getting into, I think everyone, when Dogecoin came, everyone started becoming all like stock market experts. But I actually got real heavy into it because one of my bosses, you know, he makes a lot of money, and we were talking about some stuff, and he had said, you know, around the time there was this coin, I don't know if you ever heard of Safe Moon.
I haven't, no.
So there was this cryptocurrency called Safe Moon, and he was like, look, this is going to be one of those like popular coins. It's only going to be popular for a certain period. It's going to spike up. Buy it while it's pennies, and then when it spikes up, like crazy spike, just sell. He goes, because it's only going to get to a certain point. I actually turned it was like 300 into like $3,000.
Yeah,
it was
that's
amazing. Awesome. But as far as stuff like that, I think it's kind of died down with the crypto, right? Because now it's really just seems like where the money's at is just like actual like stocks, and you say you do euro stocks, right?
Well, euro is the currency future, and S&P is the equity index, the S&P 500. So,
have you ever like recently done something really big?
You know, not so much with the futures lately, but I was very blessed. I had for my Roth, I had my personal portfolio. About half I went in the beginning of the year was energy, right? Again, you know, I'm long energy because I got in it at a good price. Oil was at $68 a barrel. So recently it was bumping up against resistance at 83. So it was already up 25%. And this is half of my portfolio. So this is when I was talking to Steve about this, saying, you know, this is kind of, you know, got me thinking a lot. I'm kind of stressed out a little bit because these are the big decisions you make. It's not so much taking losses. I could do that all day long because I know I'm wrong and I take a small loss. I have no problem with that. But when you're up in a significant way, this is what tests a true investor or trader. Okay, now I've got to think about taking money off the table. So on the charts, I study the charts and I study the macroeconomics. I do both fundamental and technical analysis. It's important. You have to do both. I was seeing it bump up against resistance at 83. Now my thought was it's going to go higher, but I took half off. So half of my portfolio, so that's 25% of my portfolio, I took off at 83, not to be greedy. And that's a key thing, right? Because I wanted to put those profits in my pocket and still have half the position to see if my next target, which was about $92 a barrel, would happen. So be patient, see what happens. But it's super. No, it's still up.
Is it?
So I took those profits, and I think it is going to, travel to that 92, but it's going to go through gyrations in between. So this is where you kind of get your grit as a trader is working through that patience of, the trajectory of price over time. And it's tough because you have a lot on the line and you see that price fluctuating. And that's why 95% of the people that try to trade honestly can't do it, because it messes with their head and their emotions, and they just can't remain level and pat in what they're trying to do.
It's one of the most unpredictable things. It really is. What you were saying about when I got to a certain point, when I saw it jump, and I'm like, if I sell now, I'll get, of course, after fees, once I saw that, how much I would get back, your biggest thing you think in the back of your head is like, well, what if I sell and it goes even higher?
Exactly.
And that's the worst, because then you start doing the math. You're like, oh my gosh, I could have had, instead of 3, I could have had 6, or, it's like so many people who held on to Dogecoin, it got up. What was the highest, 75 cents or 80 cents, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then a lot of people are like, it's going to go to $1. I'm not selling at $1. And if the people would have sold around that time, they could have been super wealthy. But it's such a gamble in that. But I get what you're saying.
No, but you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that is the challenge of it, is being able to have realistic targets and take profit regardless of what happens after that. Be patient. And you can always get back in when it drops if you think it's going to go higher.
So, Tom, I've got a question for you. And we've spoken in depth about different people who have played a role in your life growing up. Who were some of the more important people in your life, instrumental mentors, family members, friends, and anyone that really stands out to you, and anyone who's helped mold you into the person that you've become?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it does mold you. I think when you're younger and depending on your home life, if it is a little bumpy, you're looking for mentors, for people that have more normalcy, stability in their lives. I was blessed, like I said, when I went to this, the small public high school, and I had teachers that were PhDs, and one of them was a history professor that kind of inspired me. I actually had 2 really good history professors that were instrumental in my interest in pursuing history at the University of Connecticut, and particularly U.S. history, and they just made it really interesting, to learn. And that's not hard. It's difficult to do because most people fall asleep in history class, right?
Right.
So they did a good job, and I personally had an interest in it, kind of from my own perspective. But the other person that was pretty big was one of my employers was a ex-fighter pilot in Korea and trained pilots in Vietnam. And, he was just, I can be a little bit of a talker, right, sometimes. And he was the kind of guy who was just brass tacks. He said, stop talking to me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Show me. And it really brought me back to production. And because I kind of had the gift for gab. But he's like, yeah, that's great, buddy. But, put it on the line. Show me what you're going to do. So it was exactly what I needed. It kind of balanced me out to say, you've been kind of blessed to be able to talk your way around things, but now I'm going to challenge you to dig deep and to produce, and show me how you're going to do it. And so he had a business. He was at this point in time in his life, he was a captain for American Airlines. So money wasn't an issue, but he was so driven in terms of his just being productive and not wasting his life or his time. So he was like, no, I'm at 60 years old, he was going to do a mail order business. So at that time, there was no internet. This was the mid 80s, late 80s. And so when people wanted to do that, they started a mail order catalog. And so they produce a catalog, they would mail it out in bulk, and they would sell product that way versus, today we do it online. So I worked in this business in high school, and he just taught me a lot. I moved out of my house when I was a senior, and gave me an opportunity to get out of a situation at home and actually work out my high school quote-unquote career. But just the discipline that I needed at the time, somebody who was going to hold me accountable, really smart guy, right? He knew a lot. And
I think we all need that.
As much as I could BS.
Right.
He was like, yeah, he could see right through
Tom,
it.
you're the best. I mean, these two guys right here, boy, they take the cake.
So it was a good dose of reality and helping me mature.
Tom, with this episode in mind, I was talking to Justin on the way here. I knew that this connection, what it would be. I already foresaw it. You guys have so much in common: personality, the gift of gab, and just the ability to charm. Seriously. And it's a good thing because honestly, you're always able to allow people gravitate towards you guys. You guys are both pretty humble people. Yeah, we can say that. But you are favored though, because you're humble people, and people take to you guys, and people will listen to what you have to say. So Tom, you see me the past few months like really, really pursue, my faith, and it just came gradually, but I'm here now, and we talk about faith as well. And I guess I just want to ask you, what is your faith, and what do you consider faith to be?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliments, because it does mean a lot to me, because I know they're genuine. Yeah, faith is, they say you can judge a man by his clothes, but I don't agree with that. I think you need to judge a man by what's in his heart, what's in his head, and faith has everything to do with that. Now, I would say if you had to quote unquote put me in a basket or label me, it would be like agnostic, right? So I'm not religious, but I'm super spiritual, and I get the bigger picture as far as all that's concerned. I think, unfortunately, what happens with religion, and it's not all of it, and it's not everybody who's participating, but it gets corrupted so easily, where this is clearly something of man, whereas if you look some of the St. Thomas scripture about, turn a leaf, I'm there, he basically made the point that, speaking through Christ in this case, if you have a direct relationship with God, you're doing everything you need to do. Not to say that the church and the community is not a wonderful thing. It is. It shapes people's lives in very positive ways, and I'm all about that. But there's the dark side of that too, right? Where people get looking down their nose at other people that, you're this Protestantism and not that one. And so, but that should never, ever enter the equation when you're talking about your relationship with your creator. We can even call it the source. There's so many different names, but yeah, so it's complex, but you should definitely, and I'm inspired by your journey and what you're doing now, because it's important. And especially for if you never had the opportunity, like I was kind of indoctrinated because I went to Catholic school. We had to literally on Friday afternoons walk from the school to the church for Good Friday, being Catholic. So it was like I didn't have to think about it because it was kind of already part of my life. Sure. in a big way. But when you don't have that and you're going on that journey, man, that's just so important. I have that most respect for what you're going through.
And it's very exciting because honestly, Tom, I tell Justin this all the time. I've wanted to be this way my entire life. I just never had the drive, nor did I have the ambition to pursue it faithfully. Like I've always seen people who are like this, and I'm like, man, I wish I could be like that. But I just never really, truly, in my heart, wanted it that bad. And I'm at this point now where that's all I think about. So it's funny that we were talking, right? We were talking about religion, right? And it's true, religion does have a black eye. There's certainly a stain. If we go back to the times of Christ, who were the ones that were persecuting him the most? It was the high priest. It was the religious leaders. They were the ones who were just, really they were leading to his demise. So the way I operate, I don't like to label it as pursuing my religion, really more so pursuing my relationship with the Lord. I look at it that way. With that said, the hypocritical aspect of the church, the judgmental aspect of the church, it's a shame because that's what draws people away from the church. No one wants to go to a place where they feel like they're being judged or, frowned upon. That's just not welcoming. And that's not Christ-like. Jesus sat with the tax collectors, with the prostitutes, with the ones that were, labeled as misfits. When the religious leaders would ask him, well, why are you with this person or that person? Because honestly, they're the ones that need me the most. I wholeheartedly believe that if we're pursuing Christ, that's how we need to act. I mean, if someone has a problem, we can't try to shun him. We're to try to assist him, aid him, give him a helping hand. We were not to, believe we're higher up. No, think about this. Jesus was as simple as they come. This is a guy who walked around, just simple dressed. He was a carpenter, modest way of living, but yet he's out here performing miracles. He is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's the ruler of all, right? He led with love, and he was always there to be the example. And so, it truly is a shame that, the church throughout the course of time has really given, religion a black eye. But, I appreciate your authenticity when we speak. You are who you are. You're true as they come. This is one of the main reasons that I wanted you on this podcast, because from the feedback that I received, the one thing that people would say the most is your relationship with Justin seems authentic and it seems real. And that's the truth. Like, this dude right here is my brother. Like, we've been through ups and downs. We really have. But, one thing I do know about this man right here is no matter what I'm going through, he's always there for me, and vice versa. But one thing I love and respect about you is that, you're just true to who you are. You're not phony. You're not fake. You're not trying to be someone you're not. You're real. And anyone that comes on this platform with us, I want them to have that realness, and I want it to be on full display for all to see. So that's why I was so excited about having you on here. I don't think people really know who Mr. Tom Nolan really is. He's so brother number one. But nah, Tom, no, seriously, listen, you're an amazing person. I sincerely mean that. And throughout the course of our working relationship, you've treated me with the utmost amount of respect. You've bestowed me with a lot of your knowledge. I've been able to absorb quite a bit of it, thankfully so. But I just wanted to give you the platform to express yourself, but also you can't judge a book by its cover, right?
Absolutely.
Tom, although you keep people at arm's length, you're a very private guy, and I respect that. That's honestly sometimes the best way to be. But the time that you've opened up to me, I mean, you've always spoke volumes. So I appreciate this time for sure.
No, he does think very highly of you. No, you do. You seem like a great guy. One of the questions I did want to ask you, though, when he first got on his journey with faith, we've been, like I said, we've been friends for a very long time, and we've always talked about, my mom had me in the church every Sunday. We went to a Christian church, and as I got older, I kind of strayed away, and it was kind of because the same things that you experience as well. Because with me, when I was getting older, one of the people she admired was, and I don't want to blast someone on here, but it's a super preacher. These guys that make millions of dollars and take a lot of the money. And we all know churches, they don't get income from government or something that they're selling. It's people have to donate for them to function. And one of the things that really upset me when I got older was this guy my mom was just obsessed with. Like, she just loved his he had like live shows, and she would even pay $10 to watch like a 20-minute clip of him preaching. And this guy's driving $1 million cars, and he's got like a $20 million house, and I'm like, this is money that God's people gave to him for his word. And it's like, instead of him living a normal life, he's living a luxurious life. And, he does his donations and charities and stuff. But it's like, to me, when you're charging people $200 a head to come see you preach, and then you're driving $1 million car, it didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
And I, like I said, I do believe in God. I do believe, I am a Christian. But I feel like there's a lot of things people, they don't want to accept because they feel it might hurt their theories about their religion.
This is one thing I will say, and I'm going to go back to, not necessarily Christianity, but I'm going to go back to, being a believer. And again, you have to be surrounded by true believers. from what I've seen, there's a difference in how a true believer operates as opposed to just a normal Joe Blow off the street. I was talking to Nikki earlier. We're all created in the image of God. I wholeheartedly believe that. I tell him that all the time. We're all created in that image. We have that conscious that he's installed in us for the most part. We all have a conscious. It's just, do we choose to listen to it or not? We all have that inside our ticker that tells us, whether what we're doing is right or wrong. We can either choose to ignore or we can choose to act accordingly. So it's all on us. None of us here are perfect. We all have a sin nature that comes to the forefront whenever it decides to. I mean, for me personally, flesh it gets me, right? And so I've had to work through that. It's how do we connect on the levels that we choose to connect. I was talking earlier to Nikki as well about, what's our purpose here? Like, my purpose for me moving forward, my purpose is to definitely serve him, but serve the ones I care about the most, the people who are in my inner circle, but even the people who are not in my inner circle. Like, how can I impact someone? How can I inspire someone? How can I motivate someone? This is a quote I read earlier. It's actually, everyone knows I've followed Kobe quite a bit, and tying it in with the theme of generational wealth. I forgot the context on which he was being asked this, but this is a Kobe quote. Use your success, wealth, and influence to put them in the best position to realize their own dreams and find their true purpose. And to me, that's what life is all about. You put not only yourself, but others around you to not only be successful, but find their true purpose. So when I say, man, this dude could have been a lawyer, like, I see that passion just shining right through. This guy, well, look at him. But seriously, like, I look at this man right here, and I said it on the first episode. This dude is probably the most talented dude I know by far. He's got so many gifts that if he were to, just really, really come full circle, I mean, the sky is truly the limit for him. And so, but how do we put the people around us in positions to realize not only their gifts and talents, but their true purpose? So again, good versus evil. What side are you on? Are you trying to motivate, love, inspire, or are you trying to ridicule or trying to, we tend to want to tear each other down. And that's what I'm alluding to. Instead of seeing someone rise to the top, we rather see them fall flat on their face. And I guess that goes back to our sin nature. But, for me personally, and I believe that stands true to every person in this room, and I believe we generally want the best for our fellow man. I would say that, or else any of us would be doing this right now. And Tom, it's so funny. I remember that incident with Mike. I remember the very next day, and that, to me, that spoke volumes. He pulled out this little note you had in your wallet, and it had just a list of just so many different things. Do you have the list with you, Tom?
I've got the list right here, Steve.
And here's the thing, Tom. I did not expect that, and not necessarily coming from you, but people don't necessarily have that right in their wallet so that they can pull out and just as a reminder. So, if you don't mind, I would definitely love for you to share, what is on that list.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Steve, and I appreciate what you guys are doing here tonight. So, think about it. I'm 51. You guys are 20 years my junior, and you're already starting to open up to these things and really taking your evolution to the next step. So that's huge, right? But you're so right. Human nature, total dichotomy between good and evil, just like you said. And we can tap into one or the other, and what side you want to stand on. And I think we all here agree that we obviously want to be on the good side. However, we know in our hearts that, being honest, that we have vices, that we're susceptible to that bad side. And that's why I keep this, because some of the things I experienced very early on exposed me to extreme rage, exposed me to extreme violence. And I can't blame the people that were involved, but I can say that, as a grown man now, I'm well aware of what I'm capable of on both sides of the equation. So I do keep this in my wallet, and it's both the 7 deadly sins and what's also known as the 7 heavenly virtues. and I try to match them up. So if you go down the list of the 7 deadly sins: pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, sloth, you can kind of, on the antithesis of that, you can kind of align the 7 virtues, right? So humility, patience, kindness, charity versus greed, obviously, chastity versus lust, temperance, and diligence, like versus sloth. Some of them align better than others as the counterweight. But at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. It's like you've got to make a choice every day because, you see me, I have a temper. I could be pulled down either road sometimes, right? So, I keep this as it's an important reminder.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
So it's because I know what I'm capable of, and you gotta.
Have you had to pull it out recently?
I pull it out often because you get when you work with the public, you're challenged, and especially like Steve said, for me, I have a hard time with people taking advantage of other people or trying to dominate them when they have no business, and they should be respectful. Period. And I just, it makes me angry, and I'll always deal with that.
No, I love that.
At the end of the day, this forum, this open forum we have, it's also what it's about. It's about being able to sit down with your fellow man, your fellow brother, and talk about these things and bring certain things to light. And we've got to understand, again, going full circle, what is our main purpose in life.
You touched on some really key things that I think garner a lot of respect and admiration from me to you, because what you're doing now as a dad is so critical. And I think, your spiritual journey is going to do nothing but elevate that. You're already flying high, right? You're doing the right things. You're treating those kids with utmost respect and love, giving them guidance. And that's critical because that doesn't always happen. I know we want to make the assumption, somebody has a child, they're going to love it and take care of it. It doesn't happen, right, all the time. So that's huge. But I just think your journey right now is just going to take that to the next level. And at the end of the day, if you did nothing else but raise those 2 boys in a way that makes them good, well-rounded, compassionate, loving human beings, you've moved mountains. So just be conscious of that. That's not something I'll ever do. I live vicariously, through different experiences, and I'm fine with that because I've made the choice a long time ago. And there's no regrets. And a lot of people, they feel sorry for the guy that never got married and never had kids. Let me tell you something. I script my life every day. So it's huge, right? I get a lot of freedom. And so that's the trade-off, right? So I'm absolutely fine with that. And such great guys tonight. Thank you for, sharing with me. And I have to tell you, at some point in the future, there's going to be some beers on me for having me
here.
How
about tonight? No.
This was an amazing time for me today. I got to say, this was a lot of fun. And one thing about doing these podcasts, it is highly therapeutic just to sit down and talk and decipher and just let it all out, let it all hang. And so, again, once again, Mr. Nolan, you sound like a college professor every time you speak, but I've got to thank you for just taking the time out to sit down with Justin and myself and just really exploring these topics today. And your Tom, to know Tom is to love him.
Well, I appreciate it, Steve. Thanks so much, both of you. I was very reluctant to do this because I am a private person, but it's such great company. I can't say that I might venture to do it again, but if I was going to do it again with anybody else, it would be with you 2 guys tonight. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I had a good time. You're a very smart guy. Normally when Steve talks someone up as much as he does, I was telling someone this, when you talk about someone, you give like high praises about someone, you're normally right. But yeah, no, it was a pleasure meeting you. Let me ask you this: are you a prayer? Do you ever pray?
I do, actually. Like I said, growing up and going to Catholic school, we were trained, right? And so I don't even think about it. But I pray often, and then every morning I try to start my day with an attitude of gratitude. I think it's critical, no matter what you're dealing with, struggling with, whether it's health or other people in your life having problems. Man, you're going to stop and say, wow, how grateful I am for the things that I do have that are positive. And if you can start your day that way, and maybe you traded the euro and made $1,200 before you started work, that doesn't hurt. But you know what I mean? So absolutely, super important.
I don't mean to put any pressure on you, but we normally do an ending prayer. Would you mind just,
I wouldn't mind at all, but the only thing I can recite is the Our Father, and I'd love to say that to you guys.
Yeah, we would love to hear that. So let's bow our heads and Tom, take it away.
Sure. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen. That was amazing.
Amen. Tom, that exceeded my expectations, brother. Thank you for coming on this episode of Becoming Disciples. So it was a blast having you. So hopefully we'll hear from you again at some point in time.
Thank you so much, Tom. Really appreciate you. Thank you, Steve. This was a different setting than what we're used to where we're recording. Hidden location. If you're listening, please like and subscribe if you like the video, and leave a comment in the comment section for any topics you'd like us to discuss in the future. We just want to thank everyone for listening. God bless and have a good night.
God bless.